Welcome into Talk Illini, brought to you by Orange and Blue News of the On3 Network. We appreciate you being here as we are going to be talking about Zavier Zens today, the recruit that just decommitted about a week and a half ago from Northern Iowa, who will now be taking a visit to Illinois as well as Utah State and Wisconsin coming up as well. This is an interesting recruitment here with him decommitting here recently. We have Sonny here to talk with us on it before we get the visit to happen. Sonny, this is a recruit that does not have the highest ratings and things like that, but it's a player that has produced very well. I'm not going to go as far to say he's a Keaton Wagler or anything like that. Right? He rivals industry rankings. He's number 280, the number 69 small forward out there, and the number 3 player in Wisconsin. Some people might look at this and say, okay, it's a pretty lowly rated kid, maybe just a bit of a depth piece. What do you say when you see Zavier Zens in his game?
Before I get to that, I hate that you brought up Keaton Wagler already, because of course he's not Keaton Wagler. Nobody's saying he's Keaton Wagler, but you see the similarities in the sense where he's Mr. Basketball in Wisconsin, which goes to the best player in the state. He's just won, I think it's back-to-back state titles, if I'm correct. All things that Keaton Wagler did in Kansas. Unfortunately, he was overlooked. Zavier is a kid who obviously committed to Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa's coach took the lead job at Utah State, and so that's why it's understandable why Zavier is going to be taking a visit there as well. But when you look at Zavier's tape, it makes a lot of sense on how he could fit eventually in the Brad Underwood offense. He's a versatile guard / forward who can shoot. The only question I have is the fit, in the sense where, Illinois already has 4 freshmen committed for next season. Zavier would be, I believe, number 5. And I know you have 15 scholarships, and so you have more of that flexibility right now. But Brad or Tyler and whoever else is bringing him in must really like his game if they're going to be bringing him in, especially with the roster uncertainty that's going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. He does fit some of these aspects of the Brad Underwood offense and everything, or the Brad Underwood style with their offense and everything. But 6'7", 215 pounds. He's big. He's skilled. He's got a nice shot. He shot 60% at times this season. He shot over 40% from 3 at times this season as well. He's a scorer. He's a guy that's going to put the ball in the basket for you. And I'm with you. I don't know exactly how he would fit in to be able to be utilized right away. But I also don't think this team is looking for a freshman to come in and be utilized right away outside of Quentin Coleman. You had some guys on the roster this season that were freshmen that got some time here and there, were able to add things to it. And to me, Zavier Zens might just be one of those guys that's like, okay, he's got some good abilities, he's gonna be able to produce, let's bring him in. If he carves out a role for himself, great. He's a guy that probably won't demand the ball too much to come in and be able to put up some points for you. But as far as I'm concerned, this is one of those ones where it's like, why would you not bring him in and just see what you get? If you bring him in and he leaves after a year, it is what it is. But if you bring him in and you hit on him, that could be fantastic for this team next season. We also we don't know what's going to happen retention wise and who Zavier Zens could come in and help supplement for if Illinois loses them.
Yeah, a lot of these rosters are, on a year-to-year basis at this point. And it's not like Zavier is any sort of bum. He's being courted by some really good basketball teams. Wisconsin is going very hard with them, according to the insider that I was able to speak to. Obviously they want to keep Mr. Basketball Wisconsin in state. Utah State, of course, he's got a really good relationship with their head coach. And it's not like, their head coach was fired from Northern Iowa and he landed somewhere else. No, the head coach did such a good job that he was essentially promoted to a better job, and he wants to bring Zavier there. So it kind of makes sense. The connections that Zavier has with the other 2 schools was both Wisconsin and Utah State. I just don't know what the connection is with Illinois necessarily, but again, maybe that speaks to how much Illinois does want to bring him in, that they do value you watch this tape, it makes sense. It completely does make sense. He looks like a guy that could be, a starting 3 by the time he's an upperclassman. But again, for me, it's just maybe because we're in the middle of the chaos that is the transfer portal, and we're trying to wait on word on, which guys decide to come back or don't come back. To have this sandwiched in right in the middle of transfer portal season, it seems a little out of place for me.
Yeah, and I think some of the stuff you can't really control when the players are making these decisions, right? I think Brad is kind of in a difficult position here where it's like, yeah, I'm trying to work on retention with the roster. I've also got a player that I really like that just decommitted from his school, and so he's becoming available again as well. And I'm with you. I think Wisconsin is going to be more of a player here than maybe some people think about, especially when you consider the John Blackwell stuff that's going on. A lot of the people talking out there, rumors going around, is that Wisconsin doesn't have enough money to keep certain guys. And so you would think, well, Illinois should be able to outbid here and kind of bring him in. But Wisconsin also, I mean, I don't know how much people follow this kind of stuff, but they also just got a huge boost in some of their NIL and revenue sharing ability because of what the state is doing. We're not going to get into the politics of it all, but essentially the state's giving somewhere around $14 million to Wisconsin for athlete compensation, apparently for on a year-to-year basis, possibly. So we'll see what that looks like. But that would be an absolute huge boost for Wisconsin and their NIL, especially with trying to bring guys in. Maybe be Zavier Zens, maybe be more of a transfer portal type of addition thing. But if I'm being told correctly, I think that 14 million is for like all sports, not just basketball or something. So would be a very interesting thing to see these two sides go at it here. As far as I'm concerned, I would think you would want to go play for Illinois. I think you'd want to go play for the guy that was just in the Final Four versus the guy who can barely win games in the NCAA tournament and Greg Gard. But you know, every coach is kind of there at some point, so you never know how much you can talk to a kid and get him into it. The Utah State thing is kind of what perplexes me. I mean, what are your thoughts on Utah State here? How good of a shot do they have?
Well, I mean, I'd imagine it's a pretty good shot in the sense where he committed to their previous head coach, you know, when they were at Northern Iowa. The reason he decommitted is because the head coach left. And so he's got that built-in relationship with, I believe, Jacobson was his last name. So, you know, in a way that it does kind of make sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is I think Zens was clear in the sense that he's looking for playing time. And if we're being honest here, if playing time is a priority and you're a freshman, I just don't know if you're going to get that at Illinois. I think you can maybe get that in Wisconsin. Wisconsin right now is, you know, unfortunately, if you're a Badger fan, you know, they're really revamping their roster. They've lost a lot of guys already, and they might have more opportunity there. But if Zavier's one of those players who's willing to sit and wait for a year, you know, those practices are going to be tough. You're going to be playing against some of the best players in the country each and every day. And you're going to be a part of a winning culture, you know, a team that just went to the Final Four. And I think in a lot of ways that's invaluable as well. And then I think you put it perfectly earlier on in this segment. Like, if you show that you have the skill, you can find a spot on this team. And I'm sure when Brad brings him in this weekend, they're going to go over tape and they're going to show him, you know, what Jake Davis does. And, you know, maybe even Ben Hummerhouse. He's not quite as big as Ben Hummerhouse, but, you know, say, hey, look, these are your type of players, and you might even be a better offensive player than these guys. And this is where we think you can slide right in and make contributions and be a part of this program. And, you know, it's I can see the fit. For me, it's just the fact that is Illinois really going to have 1/3 of their roster next year be freshmen? That's the surprise to me, at least from the Illini angle. I do get it. Like, you know, I've had a thought that maybe we know Illinois in particular is very big into the cognition tests, and they're looking at, they kind of take like a money ball approach, but not necessarily financially, but they're looking for a different angle. I think, you know, that's how they stumbled across a guy like Keaton. I do wonder if they've found something about Zavier that they feel is undervalued, that other people have overlooked, that was similar to Keaton and how they landed Keaton. And that's why they've kind of brought him in. I kind of joked around about that, you know, when we kicked it off, talking about him winning back-to-back state titles and being Mr. Basketball, which was similar to Keaton. But I do think there's obviously something about Zavier this staff really likes. And I don't think any Illini fans at this point, if you bring in a kid that's ranked 236 or whatever it might be, 280, it doesn't matter. You got to trust Brad and their evaluation, because they've earned that trust for a few years now.
Let me ask you this final question here, and then we'll move on, or we'll be done with the episode here. Is it such a terrible thing if he does go to like a Utah State? Because in my opinion, if he does move on and go to a Utah State, get some early playing time there, maybe a year or two or something like that, and Brad Underwood is able to keep a good relationship with him, and, you know, say in 2 or 3 years, maybe a year or two, he goes into the portal and he says, hey, I've got some time in college basketball. The Mountain West is no joke. I mean, it's not a terrible conference. It's not the Big Ten, but it's also no joke of a conference. I've developed. I've gotten better. Look to go in the transfer portal and maybe keep that relationship with Brad Underwood, and Illinois can take another look at him again. I think it's probably really not great. I wouldn't say it's like really bad, but not great if he goes to Wisconsin. But I do think that you have some optimism here for like it's not over if he does choose Utah State instead of Illinois.
No, that's a really good point, especially in today's modern era. This could be just as much of a play on Xavier's side as it is Brad's side. Like, he may really like the tape that he sees on Xavier, and he understands he probably doesn't have the playing time that Xavier's looking for, but you start building that relationship now. If there's one thing that Brad Underwood is very good at doing, and that coaching staff is very good at doing, is building those relationships. And yeah, maybe ultimately Brad understands he's probably third on the list, but if he goes to a place like Utah State, has a really solid freshman year, well, then next year, when, let's just say hypothetically, we can just say Jake Davis, if Jake Davis decides to come back, he's going to be graduating next year. And then maybe at that point, Xavier's shown enough as a freshman to be able to come back to Champaign. Obviously, Brad's already locked in that relationship. It's not like you have to come check out campus or anything like that again. And hopefully Illinois will be coming off back-to-back Final Four appearances. And so Xavier is going to be interested in coming to the Illini.
All right, very good stuff here. We will be back on this channel, I'm sure, at some point this weekend. It's very likely that we're going to get some retention news in the coming days for Illinois. I know a lot of people have their sights set on Jake Davis and a few other guys to try and hear back from on that. I think some of the biggest news is going to come from an Andrej Stojakovic type of decision in this scenario. Right now, Illinois is only one of 6 teams who has not had a single player go to the transfer portal. Those teams are Arizona, UConn, Iowa, Michigan State, Virginia, Illinois. I'd say pretty good company, if you ask me, there, Sonny. So obviously things won't stay that way. I'm sure every single one of those teams, if not most of them, are going to lose a player at some point in the transfer portal. We'll see if Illinois can stay away from that, or if they will have to address something like that happening. If they do, or if a player has a declaration they're going to come back, you can be sure to come back here to Talk Illini. We'll be discussing it all, discussing retention, discussing new targets, all those different things here with me and Sonny here with Orange and Blue News of the On3 Network. We appreciate you being here. Have a good one. See you next time.